Episode 183. Are these comics going to make good film and television shows? We have Void Rivals and we have Lady Mechanika. Let's talk about them right now. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thank you so much for spending time with me as we rant about movies, comic books, and television shows. I am your host, Frank Zanca. I'm an award-winning screenwriter, novelist, and comic book writer, as well as a filmmaker. And yeah, let's just jump right into this Robert Kirkman book. This is he is the writer-creator of The Walking Dead, and he is doing Void Rivals, which is part of the Energon universe, which has this sci-fi thing going on, as well as connections to Transformers and G.I. Joe. But this is the story of two warring races that are on the same ring. And they've been sharing this ring forever. And two pilots, which one is the princess and one is the prince, so they're the sons and daughters of the current rulers. They're the best pilots, so we got a little bit of convenience there. But that's about the extent of that. You got to buy that part of it. But anyway, they are sent on the same mission to find to get this meteorite that's coming at them so that they can use it as water, because it's, of course, like a ball of ice. And I guess they're kind of running out of water. So this was going to last them for a while, so they were fighting over it. And then once they crash landed, because they both wounded each other, or wounded each other's fighters, they end up crashing in a nearby moon or whatever. And the only way they could get out was to work together, and they finally took each other's helmets off, and they realized they were the same race, and they'd been played by their parents. I guess their whole civilization's being played. So anyway, we have Leela, which is the female, and Jarek, which is the male. So Leela is trying to find this goddess thing, and he went back to his homeworld. She betrayed him for a little bit too. So we have a bunch of different little things, because this is issue number 14 already. So we do have some progression, but it's kind of been stagnant. It's kind of like what's going on with a couple of the other books out there where we've kind of stagnated. But anyway, this is the father of Solila, and meeting with some of the people that from his, whatever religion that they belong to. But then we switch over to Jarek, so that's only a quick thing. And Jarek's like, I can help you, father, because there's a fighter coming at them. And he's like, let's not start another war, please. Let's just not go down that road. And he says, you just failed a mission. He's like, I'm still your best pilot, even though all that crap happened. So I will go intercede and make sure that we don't start a war with technically somebody that could be an ally. And he's like, all right, just go. And then we switch over to this guy that always gets like one page, and that's it. He's like the loneliest character, man. He gets one page, and that's it. And then we get this other thing of these two sisters or whatever else, and they're trying to fix their ship. One of them's like I think a G.I. Joe villain or something like that. But anyway, they end up fixing the ship, and that's it. They get 2 pages. And then we go slip over to Solila, and she's got Jarek's hand droid, which is the red glove there. It talks. So if you're not following this, that's what that is. It's a hand droid. I'm not even getting to the sexual part of what that sounds like. But anyway, she has like a key, and she ends up, I guess the key has special abilities. I don't know where she got it, but she's been protective of it this entire time. But then we go back to Jarek, and Jarek is going to go out and do that mission. And he's like, well, let me get you a new hand droid. Just basically opens a drawer and says, pick your hand droid. Just don't get too excited. So he's like, I'm going to pick I don't know what color he picks. I forgot. But he says, oh, so you need a new helmet? He's like, I'm not giving away my lucky helmet. So he blasts off, And he says, good luck. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to need it. So I guess they go into like a little bit of because he drops unconscious while they blast off. So I don't know if that's something to do with the G-force or, it's just a little bit further away. So he goes into like a little suspended animation for, a short time. I'm not sure how that works. But anyway, he falls unconscious and he ends up having this conversation, this banter with Solila. And she's like, what are you doing in my head? And he's like, I didn't mean to be there. Because, like, she completely freezes up while she's in this kind of a trance talking to him. And she's like, well, how's the android going? She's like, I don't hate it, but he'll never shut up. But while she's in the middle of yelling at him, yeah, she comes back into her body, and he wakes up at the last second, right when they are embarking on in the fighter, and where they almost go head to head. And he says to the computer, why did you just almost ram him? And he's like, well, we were told to stop him, but not like that. So now the other fighter fires like warning shots, and he's like, well, we need to stop this because he thought we were ramming him, and of course he could have destroyed us, but he didn't. So they end up doing this like face off, and he's like, try to open a channel, just open everything. And he explains that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to almost ram you, but don't mean you any harm. And we end up having a transformer there, Hot Rod, saying, yeah, I didn't want to hurt you either. So he's like, I'm Cybertronian, I'm trying to find my friend. And he's like, you said Cybertronium? And that's where we go back into this thing, and she ends up falling through a trapdoor when they hit a wall, and she's like, yeah, my kid. And then we get these other people that I don't know what the hell's going on, but I guess these are the villains, and that's what the ring looks like. And that's it. Talk to the android. So that's it of what's going on here. And it's okay. I like the characters a lot, but it's again, we're not getting that progression we had in the beginning. In the beginning, it was like, because I thought it was going to be all take place on the planet. But no, it really has gone places. But now it's just like, I don't know if I don't think something like this should be an ongoing. This doesn't feel like an ongoing. So at 14, it's like, let's get this thing to a big battle, and let's close this thing up already. If he goes beyond 24 issues, I don't know. I think it's gonna really, really stagnate. But I like it so far, but I just think it needs something. It needs something because it's starting to lose it. All right, and before we move on to Lady Mechanika, I just want to remind everybody that, yes, I am a comic book writer, and this is my own comic, Lords of L.A. It is a vampire mob set in 1950s Hollywood. We are on the second issue. I do have some of the first issue left as well. They're 48 pages apiece, and they follow a character named Lena, who was a lounge singer in the 50s. There's also Marilyn Monroe that's in there. But anyway, she ends up in a love triangle kind of thing where she's really not in love with any of them. It's kind of a lust triangle. But anyway, she's turned by one of the mob bosses, one of the two mob bosses in Los Angeles that are vampires. She doesn't know which one it is. And she ends up leaving and returning 60 years later with a whole power set where she can take them on. So it's a really fun little series, and this is the samurai cover, but you can see the interior cover, insider art is really good, and we have plenty of blood, sex, and gore in there, so it's a little bit more adult. But there's the Helene cover, and then there's my Katana cover, and then this is one of the covers for issue number 1, and you can see that the artwork in there is just as good. But yeah, so if you like a copy, just put a comment in the comment section, and I'll hit you up. All right, and I do sign them as well. Plus, too, we are doing a Green Hornet 50th anniversary with some major writers like Timothy Zahn, who wrote or created Thrawn for Star Wars, Kevin J. Anderson, who does books for Dune, Brandon Easton, who did some of the scripts for Marvel's Agent Carter. Some major talent all doing an anthology for the 50th anniversary. But anyway, you can go to greenhornetnoir.com. We have the covers done by Matt Wagner of Batman and Grendel. Some major, major talent on this thing. And you can sign up. We're going to be launching the Kickstarter in January. But you can definitely put your sign up for notification just by going to this link or going to the link in the description below. It takes one click and you're good. All right, so let's jump into Lady Mechanika. This is the end of the Devil in the Lake storyline. In fact, at the end here, it says that one of my friends from one of my filmmaking groups, she has her own comic, and anyway, she ends up she's going to be writing the next story. So I just congratulated her today. But anyway, this was a story about Lady Mechanika. It's a steampunk type of thing, which I'm really surprised they haven't made a movie about this yet. But it's a steampunk story, and she is mechanical. You know, she's a cyborg. She's a mechanical cyborg. But anyway, so we have 5 or 6. That's all they do. They have 4-issue things, and then we go on to the next story and next story and next story. And I kind of like that, where it's not this continually ongoing thing. Give us a story that begins, and there's some continuation here, especially when it comes to her friend. But anyway, so she is hired by the Princess of Russia to find out where these people are. There's some people from Boston, from the university, along with some Russian people that have disappeared around that lake where there's supposed to be like a Loch Ness Monster type of creature there. And she had to go on this big, long journey to get there through Siberia. And she had a wolf at one time. She ended up rescuing a baby wolf, which the writer here, M.M. Chen or whatever her name is, totally forgets about. We don't even see the wolf. It is whole issue. She just like, I just forgot about it. What? I don't know. I thought that was going to be a thing, and apparently it's not a thing. So anyway, she ends up going into the water. But there's a whole thing. They run into bandits, all this other stuff, but it's just, side quest type of stuff. But this is the big piece of this, where she goes under the water, and I guess she's mentally connected to the dragon. They're going to calling it a dragon later. But she's mentally connected to the dragon, and she starts seeing like visions and things to that effect. And I think that all this stuff in red is all a vision. She ends up finding this underground, that's why it's all red, because technically it should be dark. This whole underwater cavern that she ends up getting into, and she ends up finding them all in there. So they're all kind of held captive. Some of them made it and some of them didn't, kind of thing. So they started dying because the dragon wants a friend. So he keeps all these people down there to play with him. That's what this is basically about. So she ends up mentally communing with the dragon, and you see the ball there because it wants to play. And this is how it sees itself. It sees itself as a little cute baby, even though it doesn't look anything like that. And she talks to them and says, hey, there's some children here that need to go back to their families and blah, blah. So you need to let them go. And he says, I know you're lonely. So she makes a deal and says, well, what if I stay and you let everybody else go? So I was waiting for this big battle, but it never happens. It's not a big battle. It's purely a deal that's struck, which is kind of disheartening a little bit for a comic book. There's a lot of dialogue in here, a lot of dialogue. So they're like, are we seriously getting into the mouth of the dragon to go back? She's like, don't worry, I'm going to stay. She's like, no, we'll get somebody to come back for you. Don't worry, and we'll get into this mouth. We'll get into the jaws of the dragon and see if we make it. But the dragon is good to its word. And meanwhile, her friend shows up, who's been mad at her from one of the other storylines, and that's Fred, is the little girl, who's like, no, we're going to go together. You're not leaving me behind. and you'd still be drunk on the ground if it wasn't for me. And the princess is like, really? So again, she's seeing like little visions and things like that. And she's still playing with the dragon, and she sees herself as a little girl. Yeah, it's weird. So then we find out this is 4 months later, and her friend shows up to rescue her. I don't know why it took them 4 months to get there, but it did, and she's almost dead because basically the dragon, every time it's communing with her, it is draining her life force to the point where she could barely even move. And the dragon's not there, and he's like, we got to go now before the dragon gets back, blah, blah, blah. Again, why did it take them 4 months? And this is really the most exciting part. So they're in this little submersible going brrrr, and the dragon's coming up behind him. Dun, 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 dun. Again, this is the most important, most exciting part of the book. And you see there's very little dialogue. So they're firing stuff at it, and she's like, no, don't hurt it. I've been friends with it for 4 months. She says, let me try to talk it down, which is what happens. She's trying to talk it down. They said, oh, we lost him. I know they didn't lose him. He's like, I'm going to eat you. I know we've been friends for 4 months, but you shot at me, so now I'm going to eat you. And then she communes with it again. And she says, no, I have to go home because I'm going to die otherwise. And I know that, you have been alone this entire time. And he's like, no, you need to shoot me because I can't live alone anymore. And again, it's not really where I saw this going. But anyway, so she says goodbye to it, and she pushes a button, and she kills it. And then they go home. And I think that's pretty much, yep. And then, yeah, so there was also this fairy in there that we didn't touch on again until the last page. That she found in the woods. It's kind of all, this one was a little bit all over the place. And I was a little disheartened by the repercussions of this thing was purely her playing with it for 4 months. I don't know, it's very weird ending for me. Especially for a comic book that's supposed to be action. And the only real action we get is in that submersible. So is this going to make a good film or television show? There's plenty of other Lady Mechanika stories that would, but not this one. I think the character does very well, especially in the steampunk universe. I think that's really a cool character. But, I mean, look at the cover. The cover looks really exciting, and we get the baby dragon in her head. It's just weird. And then Void Rivals. Yes, I think this would be a good film if he would friggin' end it. Or at least end this arc. This arc, you can't do a 100-book arc. It just doesn't make any sense. So I think he needs to end it, dude. He needs to end it, and then if they want to pick up a different storyline, that's great. But I mean, we're going to be going on 2 years of the same story. It's just weird. So anyway, that's it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Remember to give me that like, give me that thumbs up, and I subscribe to the channel. Ring that little bell there, make it go ding ding. Yeah, I'm trying to grow the channel out, so if you can help me by doing that, that would be awesome. And remember too that we have Green Hornet, greenhornetnoir.com, and definitely check that out. And you can see the video there and everything else, and get notified about when we launch. Also the link in the description below. All right, I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching, and have an awesome week, and happy holidays.